Hey gang, Jones here, back with another video here today, and today I wanted to talk to you about the delay of Gray Zone and what I believe caused it, and perhaps take a guess on it that it won't be too long until we actually get early access. Let's get into it. Now, the initial delay announcement came on March 8th from a tweet from Mar, the CEO of Madfinger Games, letting us know in a tweet that the game will not be coming in Q1 as planned. Was this the best way to announce it? Probably not, but this is Madfinger Games' first FPS title on PC, and I feel like that warrants some, leniency. Now, this is better than getting to March 31st and eventually realizing that we're not getting the game in Q1, so fair play to them. Now, moving on to some of the most apparent issues that probably delayed this game. Obviously, I am not in Madfinger's offices and know exactly why they delayed the game, but I'm going to have some speculations here. One of the most apparent things that I want to talk about is the sound design. Gunfights should seem, scary. You're in a fight. This is for your quote unquote life. And with Gray Zone Warfare, it didn't really feel like that. It felt more like just guns going off and you really not being in a firefight. I know I made a video not comparing it to Tarkov, but you want the feeling of the gunfight that you have in Tarkov with like ever closing chance of death and oh my gosh, I'm really in a gunfight. So I'm going to show a clip here of Gray Zone audio. And then now we're going to show off a clip of Tarkov audio with, the gun sounds going off. So you can see the comparison right there. In Gray Zone, it just doesn't, the same feeling of fear and dying does not really, it doesn't really scream out like that. With Tarkov, like you feel like you're in a real gunfight, as real as it could be. Obviously, we know we're playing a video game, but it just feels so much more immersive and fear and your heart pumping when you're in a fight. Like it's just a great feeling that no other game, in my opinion, besides Tarkov at this current time has been able to replicate. And I feel like that's very, very important for people while they're playing a game. They want to feel like the immersion of, oh my gosh, I might lose my gear. This is a real fight. I need to focus. This is crazy. That type of thing. Continuing on the sound design, one thing that many of us noticed was the ambient sound being extremely loud in comparison to other things. Even Gray Zone, obviously made a joke about this, talking about National Frog Day. They put a tweet out, which I thought was hilarious. But it's true that like the ambient sound just seemed to be overwhelmingly loud and around you. And it didn't seem to be like directional. Like it didn't matter if you were moving, left or right or turn your head left or right. The sound just seemed to be overwhelmingly just surrounded by you instead of being pinpointed in a certain location. And I think that just kind of almost annoys people, kind of negates the immersion because it's just so overwhelmingly loud. And obviously they've taken notes about this. They even talked about bringing in the sound team the same day that the private test took place. There was creators that said they had the sound design team actually come in that very day to try to fix the sound, which is awesome news to hear that they're that dedicated to come in that very day and start addressing issues. Another glaring issue that we saw if you watch any of the other creator videos is optimization. So one person that I noticed in general was Operator Drewski, and he talked about how he had a 4090, and you can see on some of the clips from his video that he talks about how he was like in the 60 to 70 FPS range. And then it got even worse when he went to like ADS. A 4090 at 60 or 70 FPS, like that is a NASA computer and it should not be struggling that much. So that is indeed a big issue, especially since what they initially said, or what I had heard, is that they wanted to have a 2070 be the baseline for 60 FPS low to medium settings. So that is a huge jump from a 4090 to a 270. The difference in between those two performances of those cards, and then the 4090 only being at 60 or 70 FPS. Continuing on that point though, there was mention, at least from Big Fry, that very weekend, I don't know if it was the same day, but that very weekend at least, they did actually release an optimization patch that did help a few people get a little bit more FPS. But that just shows like their dedication to be able to like that day be like, hey, we need to fix this for these people because we really care about our game. So I think that's really important that they did that day of. And then also another thing that I did notice I saw from other creators is that they had a creator that could not even launch the game. And what they did was they replicate built their computer and then went in and tried to find issues of why the game wouldn't launch, which is super cool to show the dedication, not only on the sound side of being like, hey, we need to fix the sound because these people said the sound, not that great. They also went in and said, hey, our optimization is not very good. This person can't even launch the game. Let's just go in-house, build his computer and be like, hey, let's figure out what the problem is. So I feel like that shows a lot of dedication to be like, hey, we need to fix our problems, whatever they are. And that is really, really promising from a game developer, in my opinion. Now, I am starting to try to build a community on Discord for Gray Zone Warfare, for people to get together, share gun builds, get together with raids. Everybody's on a different time zone trying to play together. That link will be down in the description below if you are interested. Now, another topic that we talked about and a lot of people saw that they didn't agree with is the AI. Now, the AI did seem very lackluster in a lot of situations where they were simply just running straight at you. They weren't taking cover. They would just start. Sometimes they wouldn't even move, for example. Now, there are two ways to look at this, and I'm going to try to explain both here. So for this game to be a open, breathing, persistent world, with these AI supposedly doing jobs and stuff like that, they need to be, out in the world. I didn't see one video that I did see much of or any AI within buildings. And I feel like they would be in buildings because, like, if it's a living, breathing world, they're conversating, they're playing cards, they're sleeping, somebody's on patrol. You didn't really see that. It just seemed like they were just kind of like bots walking around town with guns in their hand, and then you showed up and they shot you. So I feel like there does need to be some AI improvements in the fact of, a real breathing world, especially with the big PvE aspect in this game. I feel like there definitely does need for AI to be worked on. Now, on the other hand, people talked about, the lack of AI sometimes in how difficult they were to fight. Now, one, you have to remember that this is the lowest difficulty of the AI. Okay, I'm not defending some of the stuff that they did, okay, because sometimes they literally would just stand there, but just hear me out here. That is the lowest difficulty of AI. Another thing is that is one of these first missions that you do in Gray Zone Warfare. Every single creator, and even when we got the gameplay reveal on IGN, that entire gameplay showed clips of people with weapons and attachments and all those other things that would not appear on a low-level player in Gray Zone Warfare. You have to think that when you first start out on one of these missions, you are going to be shooting these guns with iron sights and probably no other attachments to put them on. So you have to take that in consideration. There were several creators that died more than once, Rat's Nest mission, and they had like razor scopes, holographic sights, red dot sights, foregrips, and stuff like that, and probably stock changes and all that different stuff, and certain ammos. You have to think you're going to go out there with low level gear with iron sights, probably terrible ammo, and you're going to have to fight these same people that some of these creators died to multiple times. So you have to think about it like that instead of being like, oh, wow, this person with the razor scope shot this person and they didn't do anything. So you have to take a little bit of grain of salt with how bad the AI were, but what people were using to eliminate them with. So for that AI, there's a double-edged sword. Yes, they should have acted better and it should be a real breathing world, but then you have to take into account what gear people were using and what you're going to be using when you get into early access yourself. Moving on to something that we actually didn't see in any of the gameplay from the creators or the gameplay release on IGN was the UI. They talked about they didn't want anybody to show it back in the base because they said a lot of things were placeholders and they were updating it. So that's something definitely that's going to cause a delay because UI is not obviously a game breaker, but it definitely makes, life easier if you do have a very easy and smooth UI to work with. If you are liking the video and you want to keep up with Gray Zone news and content, consider subscribing. I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, the last thing that I do want to talk about is the PvP and armor values. So no creator showed us any PvP because they did not want us to see PvP. And I'd heard because maybe it was because of the armor values and stuff like that. So I would imagine it's from like inconsistency with armor values and maybe the bullets not reacting to certain armors or reacting in certain ways within the game. So they want it to be practical. Obviously, there's nothing worse than thinking that you should have eliminated someone and then asking yourself why you didn't. And that is extremely frustrating. So they definitely want to get that queued in. I think it could be one of the biggest reasons that is holding us back from early access because they do want to nail down PvP. Even though this is a PvE focused game, if the PvP is not good, it will deter a lot of people from playing the game. Okay, closing statements here on why I don't think the delay will be that long. I think it'll be sooner rather than later, like 1 to 2 months. One of the reasons for this is because I don't think Madfinger Games missed their original guess of Q1 release by that much, because I think they released it back in November of 2023 that they were going to release in Q1. I don't think that they're going to miss the mark by 4 to 5 months of development. They have developed games before, obviously not PC ones, but I don't think they're going to miss the mark that bad, in my opinion. Also, talking about the dedication of Madfinger Games is that we talked about how they went in and they tried to fix the sound the weekend of or the same day of that they were reporting issues. Also, talking about the optimization, they went in that same weekend, made an update, and then they actually know about it. And moving forward, they're going to be focused on it. And then 3, talking about the creator that couldn't even launch the game because of optimization. They went in, built the computer, and then started working on it that day. So not only are they dedicated to actually fixing the problems, they're also dedicated on promptly fixing the problems, because they could have waited till next week, the week after, whatever. But no, they came in that very day or that very weekend to fix those issues. Lastly, the current hype for this game is extremely high on a very large basis. So I feel like Madfinger Games wants to be very timely about getting this game out to early access. Obviously, they want to make sure it's polished, but they also want to take advantage of the hype that this game has generated from the recent gameplays and several creators making videos about it. I feel like they want to be timely and, capture that hype and be able to execute on that. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. This is Jones, and I'm out to the next one. Peace.